Hi, I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of Massano and Anyma, Angel in the Dark. We have a fully arranged track here modeled after this song using different harmonies, melodies, chords, PML sounds, different vocals, and only Ableton stock effects and instruments plus Serum. So we have a fully arranged track here lasting 5 minutes, reverse engineering the style to learn the thinking behind the style. So we are learning the rules first so we can break them later in our own music. And we have this intro in the beginning. These sub bass and rolling bass lines here. And then at some point we have a placeholder vocal here. And the verse is coming in. Quickly turning this off so you can focus on the instruments. So it builds up, and then we have this mini bridge part here. And here's our first drop, we are bringing in a couple of plugs. More plugs coming in, elements building up, and then we have the first time where we are starting to play the hook and filter the hook melody in here at around 1:30. Quickly soloing this part. And it's more the radio edit, that's why we are now getting into the break part already here. Absolute trance track at the end of the day, but slower and more melodic techno drums and sound design. So it's melodic techno, but it follows the total script of a trance track. And then we are adding pads on top.
In this timeless melody, we'll keep on rising. In this timeless melody.
Even playing some pianos along here.
In this timeless melody.
We'll look at that in a minute, and then we are getting into the main drop.
Keep on rising.
Have these chopped vocals here, and the main drop really starts at 3 minutes, so we're exactly 1 minute in our break, and then we are playing the hook one more time. You can also see nothing crazy going on in the master, and then we are kind of starting to get into our outro. And then it winds down. So I think Anyma doesn't need an introduction. Massano actually doesn't need one either, but great stabby melodic techno sound, very captivating, characterized by aggressive sound design and hypnotic grooves, released on Afterlife and many other labels, and performs at major venues and festivals worldwide, totally on the rise. So let's quickly look at the groups. The drums group sounds like this. Very on point. and short and snappy claps. So that's the drums group. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And the bass. Absolutely tamed and under control, these sounds. We'll take a look at that in a minute as well. And instruments group. And in the build-up. And somewhere in the intro. And the outro. And then we also have this effects group here, a bunch of impacts and risers. And this texture loop. And on top of everything, this vocals group. Basically our vocal chopped up here, and then we have this phrase.
In this timeless melody, keep on.
Okay, so these are the elements. Alright, and let's quickly go through the elements one by one here. This is what we have on the drums group. Just keep that in mind. Saturator, limiter, saturator, compressor. That's also affecting the kick, which is triggered by this sample here and then played with this MIDI. Short one, 200 milliseconds long. But has a nice thud, and we are rolling off some low end, but emphasizing here on the click of that kick. Okay, and then we have this audio effect here over time. Every now and then we're rolling off low end. If we're opening this up, this is sometimes needed for arrangement purposes here. And then saturator, slightly adding drive behind that. And then moving over to the clap. These are layered claps, layered together. And then added a bit of vinyl distortion on top, and in the middle we are rolling off some lower frequencies which we're keeping on the side, so it's a bit more emphasized on the sides, and then it runs through this sidechain here, or this kind of custom built LFO tool. Just to ensure the sample doesn't last too long. We want it short and snappy. And then we have this open hi-hat. And all of these samples here can be found in the corresponding sound pack, Mystique Melodic Techno sound pack, which contains these project files, 8 of them. We are just looking at this one right now. And also 70 plus Serum presets with corresponding MIDIs to kickstart your inspiration, as well as 300 samples, and you will find these claps here, for example, or hi-hats in these folders of the sample pack. So super cool construction kits and sound pack for melodic techno. That's how you get all these sounds. If you're wondering, take a look at the links in the description. And we're cleaning up some low frequencies on that sound, which are not needed in this case. And we're just playing this in the offbeat position as usual. And now we have a closed hi-hat. And there we are playing 16th notes with different velocities here to have a bit of movement inside. And also we are auto-panning these closed hi-hats around your ears. The other day somebody was commenting on the channel, hey, why don't you pan your drums? Well, if they're not panned here, they could still be affected by an auto pan like here. This is basically automating the left-right panning at a rate of a 4th note and sending it around your ears all the time. And we have another closed hi-hat here. Let's listen to that one in solo. So this one is a bit more sharp, sitting on top, while the other one that's a bit more dirty is moving around. Like around your ear, so you have a bit of centered information. and a bit wider information. And now on top of that, we also have this open hi-hat. So classic long tail. Whereas we had this one with the short tail. And so this is how you can sort of add drive to your drums. If we're playing, you know, the kick and the clap and all of these cymbals now together, this is what we have so far. I'm turning this loop off quickly here. And now I'm adding in this open hi-hat with a longer tail. Just conveying to the listener that now we are more in a peak part. And that's actually further emphasized by also playing this ride sound here, which is just higher up on top of this one. So this one is more in the mid frequencies or in the upper mids. And then this one is sitting on top. Making sure this really cuts nicely through the mix. It's not the most complicated drum setup, as you can see here. And then we have this hat loop. Let's listen to this one. And this one as well. This one is bounced audio, but it's also moving around your ears. And that, again, answers the question of the other day, hey, why don't you pan the drums? Well, actually, these are panned. And you can see it here. Sometimes there's more information on the left channel. Sometimes there's more on the right. And it alternates between them. And you can also see that in the two green lines here. Sometimes the left one is higher. Sometimes the right one is higher. Okay, so all of that together. So these 16th notes are also moving around your ears. And you have nice movement there. And then, as mentioned, later we are adding in the ride and the open hi-hat. Let's actually close those a bit so we see a bit more. And then the other thing that's still coming in here in the drums is that noise. And for that one, we are actually using Serum. We are using a noise, alpha noise here, and then we're moving the decay time of the envelope one around, and we're also playing with the noise level, so with the level here. And this is then being applied by the mod wheel automation here towards the end of the pattern. Okay, let's play all the drums together again. And then towards the end of that pattern, we have it again. Sometimes it's just more controllable by doing it with the noise section of a synthesizer. Yeah, and whenever you see this docking device here, is kind of our custom built LFO tool where we are making sure to sidechain whenever it's activated. Okay, so what else do we have in the drums? We still have these snare buildups. Here's super clean snare setup, 16th notes, building it up, bringing in the gain over time. Very simple and straightforward. And we have another one of those snare rolls here right before the second drop. And there you can see tempo switches. And it's also being filtered in. Sixteenth notes, and we're pitching it up. So you could see this one here being automated, the pitch. And we are also cutting the lows in the beginning, or cutting them back in. And it's two sounds layered. It's this one. And then that one. This one with a bit of high frequency information. So there's a fat snare sound as available. And then there's this other thing here called rumble, just an impact which we are using in our break. Deep impact. It's really the typical trance kind of sound palette here. It's very close, always like this type of melodic techno to classic trance setups. Let's move over to the bass group here, because we've covered all the drums, and we have bass line containing sub, going up from D to E to F sharp. And what are we playing? We're playing 16th notes. It doesn't sound like 16th notes because we're heavily ducking it. If I'm turning this off, so this is our sound. Make sure you're on headphones or on speakers that can play lower frequencies. And we're putting together a bunch of sounds here. Sine wave, another shaped sine wave, and a saw wave on top of that. So this is our deep information, and now more interesting what's going on in the rolling bass. Here we have an octave pattern, also a typical trance bass setup. 16 notes, and what are we are rolling off low end here, which is already covered by our sub bass, and then we have ICANN has kick playing as our wavetable. So we're playing ICANN has kick as a waveform here with this rolling bass, rolling off low end, and then we have this sidechain here where we're splitting the frequencies, basically different type of sidechain on the higher parts than on the lower parts, but actually we're just using that to dial down the decibels here on the high part. And then behind that we have an utility flipping the phases, because we're also playing something else here on top of that. Let's look at the midis here. Always the same notes, but in this case we are playing this pattern. You can take a look at it again. I'm setting it again to 16th notes. It's always repeating this pattern, and these are two layered sounds if I'm playing that just together with a kick. Pretty well-known pattern as well. And we have two parts to this sound. So the super high reso part, and again here playing ICANN has kick 2 octaves down, 3 octaves down for this typical gnarly melodic techno afterlife type bass sound. A bit of hyper on top. So that's 4 voices unison, slightly detuning, and then we are controlling envelope 2 and 3 on the filter cutoff. So take a look at that. Both open it up a bit more. So what's in the processing behind it? We are cleaning up. Again, this is modeled after a reference track, so take this with a grain of salt. If you see something like this, you would probably not do that working forward, just producing your own track. But if you're trying to reverse engineer something that's already there, and you're, well, I'm doing this with Serum and Ableton stock, I don't have the exact synth setup that the original artists were using. And I have the feeling that there still needs to be something in here in this frequency range. That's how this kind of stuff happens. Just take that with a grain of salt. Don't take it too seriously here, what's going on. So we're just trying to shape it after the other sounds that were in the reference track. And then, you know, sometimes you're feeling, hey, this still needs to go a bit more in the high frequencies on the side, and but that's only for this part of the sound. And then you have this higher part of the sound, this one, the top part here, where you need something else in the processing. And you're also using this ICANN has kick here, if I'm quickly soloing just this. So what's going on here? We are controlling the filter cutoff with envelope 2. Again, very snappy and short. And then we're just rolling off all this belly information here, just focusing on the high part. And then it gets put together with the second sound here. And then, yeah, this part here gets emphasized if I'm turning this off. You just have a bit more edge here towards this sound, and now it's also looking a bit strange here. Basically, we have side chains that are, let's take a look at this one here. This one is ducking the high parts slightly differently than the low parts. It's kind of like a multi-band sidechain. You can think about that. You could do this with Pro Q 3 or 4 from FabFilter, or you can sort of build a custom one in Ableton. Let's listen in without it. So playing that together with the kick. And essentially we are playing it in a way where we have the higher part of the sound sidechained more softly than the lower part of the sound. That one is sidechained a bit harder, which makes sense. You don't want as much low information to go through when our kick is playing, but we are okay with higher frequencies being more put through when the kick is playing because they're not affecting it too much. Let's quickly play them all together with the kick. So this is our bass setup here, and then we have a respace in the middle of our break. This one is fairly simple compared to this more complex bass setup. And we have 8 voices of basic shapes, sine wavy and saw wave, and a bit of a sine wave below that. And we have a glide. Forgot about that one. Let's take a look. So it's set to mono, set to always portamento, and that one is set up to 165. And in context.
Heaven symphony begins to rise with every note a new horizon.
Okay, and in the bass we also have the sub drop here, which is just a sub drop sample recorded, you know, basically a bass sound pitched down. Very clean and simple. And let's move over to our instruments group, where it's again going to get a bit more heavily processed. And if we take a look at this lead sound here, these are the notes we're playing. And actually we are always playing fifths and thirds on top of our chord progression. And maybe I'm quickly taking a detour to the piano here, where we can quickly take a look at the chords. So we have our first chord is D major. How do we know that? We quickly audition, and I'm bringing A up an octave. Now we see our D is the root note, 3 semitones in between to get a major third, and 2 semitones in between to get a minor third. Typical major chord. And how do we know that D is the root note? Well, we are playing it down here again. That's a good indicator. Not always, but often. So D major followed by, that thing sounds pretty much exactly the same as the first chord, just 2 semitones higher. So that's an E major. You can also move it down, see it has the exact same characteristics. E major. And then that one sounds different. So if we move that one down, you see G is different. And why is that? So if we start with F and then bring C up, we can see that's a minor chord. F sharp, 2 semitones to A, and 3 semitones to C sharp. So we have F sharp minor. And our last one is This one looks or sounds very similar to this one. So it's a minor chord. And C sharp is our root. Let's bring G sharp up. And there we can see it's also a minor chord, 2 semitones in between, 3 semitones in between. Minor quality of the chord. There we go. So that's our chord progression, and then we can go back and take a look at the melodies on top. So these are similar here. Let's play them here. And making it a bit bigger, we can see we started with D major. So that's our root actually. That's the 5th. And F sharp is the 3rd. So we're playing 5th, 3rd, 5th, 3rd. And we're doing that for all of these here. So. But in this case, as you might have noticed, we did not play the last chord down there. So the C sharp wasn't played. We just stayed with the F sharp. Okay, so this is the setup. And if we go back to the drop and then take a look at the sound design, we quickly notice, okay, what's going on here? So let's quickly go through this. Some of these, you know, melodic techno tracks on Afterlife and labels like that, they are heavily layered. And that's why we sort of, if we want that fat sound, we have to do something similar here. So let's quickly listen to all these different layers. So this almost sounds like we could keep that one and forget about all the rest. But what is the rest doing? Some noise. A detuned pluck, a phasing higher pluck, and some frog type sound. So let's take a look at the first sound quickly. Saw wave, and then we have dimension expansion. And a bit of phaser. And these two are not active here. Nothing in the matrix. We have a longer release time on the sound. By the way, with these sound setups, it's a bit difficult to put it all into a video. If you're highly invested, I encourage you to maybe pick it up. It's a great deal after all. If you really want to figure out every single setting, that's a good exercise by itself, but we are trying to stay within 1 hour of a video, or maybe even less than that here. So that's why sometimes we have to keep moving. So this is the sound here. You can also see the entire thing is being sent through that reverb here, which is 8.5 seconds of decay time on the send. If I'm turning this off, there's no tail at all. So this is a very clean sound coming out of Serum here. And going back, listening to the second one, which noise are we playing? Let's quickly take a look. It's again alpha noise. And then low frequencies cut off. Nothing crazy going on. Next sound. 8 voices, saw waves, detuned, sent through a filter, typical trance pluck. And next element. Octave higher, 2 elements. This one even an octave higher. 8 voices, detuned, detuned. This one is a bit quieter, so the higher one is a bit quieter. And this is to give it depth behind it. And then below that, yeah, and this one here is to add in character, this weird character of that waveform. is just something that works well with all the other elements together. And let's listen to all of them combined. You can also see some of them are louder, like the first one is the loudest mixed here. And what we're doing then is we're rolling off low end for all of them and some high end information as well, and then sending them through the phase guitar. So without the phaser. That's what it sounds like if I totally exaggerate it. And then saturator behind it, soft clipping on, EQ, mid-side EQ behind it, cleaning up a bit on in the middle. This acting as our sidechain, and then we have this filter which gets automated over time through the arrangement here. Okay, below that we have another lead main support which is playing just one note. And you're like, wow, what's that? What's going on with this sound? So we just need this crunchy upper part of these waveforms. Again, 16 voices here, and send through, what is that, detuning and a bit of phasing as well. But we're just taking the high end information of the sound. So we don't need any of this lower stuff. We're just taking the high information. And then again, this filter is also being applied over time here. And this one goes together with the lead. This is very typical for this Anyma, you know, festival style stuff that's also being done together with Massano in this case. And then we have this pitchy synth plucky thing playing the same as the lead. And this one has this pitch effect on top, sitting here in the middle of the frequency range, just adding depth. And you're wondering, hey, so it's not pitched here, so where is it pitched? We can quickly take a look. It's LFO1 controlling the master tune with this shape. And that's how you achieve this pitch effect. And then reverb on top, but that's it. So this is getting mixed into all of that. Okay, and then below that we have this ARP, which is also centered on something here in the middle. It's auto-panned, and the sound itself is being generated by a saw wave. This again kind of like acts like a drone type element here. It's just really important for the beauty of the overall thing. Below that we have this pad. Super basic, you don't need anything crazy here because you're already doing the crazy stuff with the synths on top. So now it's just about supporting them and placing them right into the mid-center of the stage. Same chord progression here, but fifths and octaves. So what are we playing? The simplest saw waves, 2 octaves of them, and lower, slower attack times. Okay, below that, something a bit more plucky, but the pluckiness seems to come from the synth itself. Here we go. LFO1 controls the level of this oscillator. And And LFO2 with the same rate controls the filter. Bit of reverb on top, low cut here, nothing else going on. That's the sound. Low cutting it here as well. And that's how we create a bit more depth in the sound. And below that we have this plug sine, which is playing the fifth from the beginning chord. You could also argue maybe that's the root note of the entire track, but what is being played here, it's a sine wave, and that's about it. And let's play it all together to see how that fits into the picture. Maybe in the back, or maybe here. And there we are in the outro as well, and we can cover some other sounds that we haven't looked at yet. There's the super saw plug. Let's play this in solo. So we have a reverb tail. We have a bit of detuning. And it sounds a bit pitched. Okay, and this is how we are creating tension in intro and outro parts. And what does the sound look like? So heavily detuned with 8 voices, and portamento is on. Reverb is active, bit of low cut and high shelf. And then we're cleaning up the low end here on the side. A-B. So it's back a bit more to the center, and here it's also getting cleaned up in low end, and there's a sidechain, a regular one. Okay, still looking quickly at the piano sound. This is just a simple sampled piano here. You can replace it if you have a better one. This is Ableton stock effects and Serum. And if you happen to have this project file later on your computer, you can exchange everything. You can also just take the drums and use them in a different track or something. Just don't go and release this thing as is. We have had a couple of people doing that. I mean, are you really doing yourself a favor if people know that you're releasing templates you can buy? Timeless melody this time. But it's definitely okay to take parts and take inspiration from that, or learn from this, and then, you know, delete all the stuff and make your own track or something, or take half of it and then add your secret sauce on top. That's definitely fine. Keys, sine. Just a sine wave playing along here with the chords. Higher up to fill out frequencies. It's a sine wave, and this almost sounds like an organ, but it isn't an organ. It's just 2 basic mini waves, one with 3 voices, one with 1 voice, and then filtered. Longer attack times here to have them slowly come in. And then another note supporting, filling out the frequencies. You know, just another layer on top, 2 saw waves. Let's play them all together to hear it in context. Sometimes this just needed to really make it fat and wide. And there's another organ type thing here that adds in a bit more, something that sounds like noise but isn't really. but long decay time on the sound. 6 seconds. Okay, all of those together. So that's how tension is being built up here right before the drop. And then this gets supported by a bunch of risers. So here we are using the pitch bend on a saw wave. Then we have a noise. And then a downlifter. And some crashes. And effects. And some reverse. And this texture loop. Something like this, always nice to put in. This is how, I don't know, it's like always a good technique to make it sound fuller, richer. But don't put it too much in the foreground. You still want your track to work by itself. Okay, and one more thing before we wrap up is these vocal chops here, where we're just using a bunch of these input vocals and chopping them up. How does that work together? Going through multi-band dynamics and then cleaning up low end through reverb, 17%, 8 seconds is a long one. And then ping pong repitch, 4x4, feedback 35, driver 25. And then we're getting rid of some of the resonant parts here. You hear that in the low mids? That's just a bit too much for this track because we have all these frequencies already covered. But when the vocal is singing, then it's not as bad and this thing turns off.
In this timeless melody, we'll keep on rising. In this timeless melody, we'll keep on rising. In this timeless melody, we'll keep on rising.
Okay, so that's the setup. Wrapping it up, what's most important here is these layered rolling bass lines. Typical Massano style, he's really good at putting this stuff together. So you need a sub foundation, then you need something rolling. And then the rhythmical pluck, I guess. And you have this type of setup, you need some clean kick to support it. This kick really needs to provide the transient. And overall, clean drums, nothing crazy. Clean, short and snappy. Properly layered. This is layered claps here for fatness, and then also clean hats. Notice we are not doing anything with toms here or something. It's just we're already so filled up here with low-end information. We are really able to do without any further toms. We're just emphasizing with these rides and open hi-hats here to suggest more energy in the hook, as opposed to And then we're adding a bit more energy with this noise here. Always towards the end of the pattern. So very clean drum setup, and then we have lots of layers in our instruments group, especially for the main lead. Fat layers here. This is very typical for Massano. Supportive layer. Even if it sounds this weird. And then even supporting that more with plugs. And then another one. Overall, harmonically, not really too complex ever in Massano tracks, also not in Anyma tracks of this era. They are basically playing pretty simple, straightforward harmonics and let the show speak for itself and these powerful drops. But yeah, this extra dirty layer here is very characteristic for Massano. And he also enjoys putting these vocal chops into his tracks as well in all kinds of way, shapes and forms. So both overall, Anyma and Massano have a pretty surgical and precise style, and the overall arrangement can be regarded as a mini club mix somehow, with an intro here, but overall just lasting less than 5 minutes. Build up, and after 30 seconds you have the first verse. Some vocals, but not too many instruments, and then the instruments are coming in towards this drop here. And then building it up. So far only one bass note. And then the hook starts at 1:30 and we are actually changing the bass notes for the first time. Typical trance feature, but also works super nice in melodic techno. Yeah, and then repeating the hook, and then two elements in our break, calm down, and slowly building it back up with rees, and then we're bringing in all these pianos and almost organ sounding pad sounds into the build-up, where we're starting with the snare rolls, so nothing crazy, it's just one big break, and then it snare rolls and builds back up into the second drop, playing these vocal chops, playing the fat synths on top, playing the hook with the vocals behind it. So from here to then. And then when we're done with that, we play it again. And then after like 4 minutes, we already wind it down and prepare our outro, which then happens after a short break. Of silence. Where the bass is playing monotonous, just one note. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough. I was a bit sick in my voice today, sorry for that. You can check out all these links in the description to the Mystique sound pack. Great sound pack, 8 project files just like this one. Amazing stuff, great samples, great presets. And if you want to learn start to finish melodic techno production, feel free to check out a link in the description to the Start to Finish Melodic Techno Academy. Also, if you want to check out these types of vocals, I'm linking the vocal packs in the description as well. Sample packs we made just for this use case. If you're wondering how to write these types of chords, melodies, and chord progressions, feel free to check out the music theory class in the description. If you're saying, hey, all of this sounds amazing, check out the Everything Bundle, our greatest deal in the store, where you get all of that and just have an amazing library to work with. So thank you for your time and attention. I'll talk to you again soon, and let's have a full playback.
Heaven symphony begins to rise with every note a new horizon. Heaven symphony begins to rise where we're headed, only I know. Heaven symphony begins to rise where we're heading, only I know.